as I've, watched you evolve, where you used to be a lot more of a Republican, you are now a libertarian. Um, and I find that to be interesting because as someone who is sympathetic to the Libertarian Party, I can't go all the way for a couple of reasons.
Okay.
Reason number one, I just don't believe in a two-party system. It'll ever be viable. I think the best you could hope for is the Libertarian Party is big enough, like 5 to 10% of the electorate, where you can kind of bend the other two parties out of fear of you messing up a presidential election, whatever, and you can get them to concede certain which is very effective, to get certain policies. But I don't think it can ever be like a viable third party. Not because I think the party has bad ideas. I just think these two, like you said, they're so corrupt. Like they're talking about not having no debates, both of them. Like no presidential debates. And everyone talks about how Republicans are, anti-democracy. The Democratic Party, like, was out there back in 2016, keeping the Green Party off of voting slips, and I'm like, so that's my thing.
Republicans do that to libertarians too, all the time.
Exactly. And so it's not that I think the party's bad. I think the system is just like a big swamp, and so I don't see it going anywhere. So, like, do you agree, or do you think there is a viable path for libertarians to be major players, moving forward?
Not at the national level, not anytime soon. No. My thing is, even when I was focusing more on the Republican Party, my beliefs were always more libertarian. They have been so for years. It's funny because I had gone through some of my tweets, and even from 2019, I was saying, in a few years, I will probably go full anarchist because I actually knew I was probably going to get to this point. My focus was mainly on trying to add my voice to those trying to reform the GOP to make it live up to what it says it is, because they always run on a libertarian platform. Then they get into office and then they govern like Diet Democrats. So to me, that's because there is this debate in the liberty movement. Should we focus on our movement, or should we try to take over the GOP? I was more in the take over the GOP camp. And plus, back then, the Libertarian Party wasn't something that I could take seriously, because honestly, they didn't really take themselves all that seriously. But I always said, if I felt like there was something in the liberty movement where I felt like they actually had a plan, then I would probably jump ship. And that kind of happened last year. And so my thing is, it doesn't have to. People always focus on the federal, on national politics, because those are the sexiest, and that's what we've been conditioned to focus on. We don't focus as much on local. And for the past few years, I've been preaching you need to start focusing on your local politics, because that affects your life more than the president does. Chances are, if you get hassled by law enforcement, it's not going to be the FBI, it's not going to be the ATF, it's going to be your local sheriff's office or your local police officers. So for me, for the liberty movement to really start having political power, it's got to take a very long-term focus. So, and the Mises Caucus, which is a part of the Libertarian Party, recognizes this. And when I saw that they did, I was like, okay, that's where I can lend my voice. So nationally, yeah, they probably shouldn't be focusing as much on that. They should definitely be getting people on the ballot, because that helps their ballot access and on lower tickets, and it helps them to get their message out. But stop pretending like one day you're going to win the presidency, or even a congressional seat. When you focus on your local races, if libertarians or liberty-minded people, regardless of the party, because to me it's not really about party, it's about liberty, it's about limiting the government, it's about making sure that the government can't abuse its citizens, that really starts at the local level. So if they start picking up more seats in city councils, county judge, sheriff, especially mayor, that's where we can start to see some change take place. When you have more of that, then you can bubble it more up to the state level, and maybe federal. But again, the federal government's gone. It is a corrupt beast, and to me, the only way to fix that is to just shut the whole thing down. But it's going to be a while before we get to that point. But still, you can still affect change at your local levels. You can also use local government as a bulwark against overreach coming from the federal and even the state level as well. You can nullify a lot of their laws. So I think that's the route that we have to go. And, even relating this to the Black community, I mean, the government abuses us more than it does other people. I mean, that's just the fact.
Absolutely.
Um, so when you have laws in place that allow them to do that, and you have a local government that will go along with those laws, it's never going to stop. So I think, to me, focusing locally over the long term, picking up as many local seats as we can over the next couple decades, if you have more liberty-minded people in those offices, then you can actually start pushing back against a lot of the overreach that we're seeing from the federal government. That's where I can see, I hesitate to use the word third party, but I mean, just
Yeah,
for
I'm
the
just saying.
conversation, that's where a third party can actually start making a difference. And plus, if you have more of these people governing and they're getting good results, that's also proof to people to say, hey, this concept works. We need more of this. So to me, that's the best shot we have. Now, I don't know if it's going to succeed, but I think that's our best shot right now.
I will say this, to your point, I do think the Libertarian Party has gotten respectable, because I used to watch those conventions. I'm like, Lord, put a suit on, man. Like I'm like, this so whack. Like, the whack jobs come out, but I
Yeah.
do think they've gotten more serious recently. So I agree with you there. As far as my own politics and why I do root for the Libertarian Party, I guess if I had to describe myself, I would describe myself as like almost like an anti-federalist of sorts. From like
Nice. Yeah.
like I think that's the only way forward, really, where we I think the anti-federalists lost the battle, but I think they're winning the war long term, of when they were saying, look, man, you can't govern, and we was a much smaller country back then. You
Yep.
can't govern this large mass of people with this federal government. And so I think what we need is to, like you said, go back to where states are pretty much their own countries,
Yep.
and we have free travel between the states, a shared currency, and a shared, defense, although limited. I think we spend way too much money on
Oh yeah.
the military. I think that's the only thing that can actually save this country, and so that's why I do root for the Libertarians, because
Oh, I mean, I think you might be more of a libertarian, honestly.
yeah,
I
because I
mean,
like,
going back to the Articles of Confederation, stuff like that. I mean, I'd rather see it all abolished, but I could probably settle for something like that. Like,
yeah,
where it's a loose confederation of different states, but the state is supreme. Yeah.
exactly, and so that's kind of what, if I had to describe myself. I know, anti-federalist doesn't mean anything in 2023, but when I kind of read those papers, and I'm like, man, these guys, I feel like they're talking to me right now.
You're right.
Right now.